Yeah.
Maybe you should put your mask on so you're anonymous.
Okay, right now.
It's good to have friends, right, Ruben?
Huh?
Good to have
Good.
friends. Yeah, my friend right there.
You don't understand. We learn together every day.
Yes, I know.
So, I mean, Ruben has to put up with me on a regular basis, second only to my wife.
Thank you to get an award for.
Good morning.
Okay.
Somebody said good morning.
So it's working.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds
It's
like
working.
Steve.
Okay, there you are.
Okay.
Say good morning. Good morning,
Good morning.
Steve.
Good morning.
Oh,
Morning.
Baruch Hashem.
Okay. We're on the top of Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the top. The Gemara yesterday was talking about, the Gemara brought in a brisa that said that Rav Oshia and Rav Yochanan argued whether there was Breira. And the Gemara said, first, let's change the names. And the Gemara wanted to know whether Rav Yochanan did hold from Breira or did not hold from Breira. And the Gemara says, Alma, we see after the proof the Gemara brought, Lei Slade Rav Yochanan Breira. That Rav Yochanan does not hold from the concept of Breira. So the Gemara says, okay, if Rav Yochanan does not hold from Breira, so the Olam lo tepach, you don't have to change the names around in the brisa and say that Rav Yochanan did hold and Rosha didn't hold. Rav Yochanan does not hold from Breira. So now that means that Rav Oshia holds from Breira. V'chi leslate Rav Oshia Breira. But so when does Rav Oshia maybe holds Breira? But the Eraisa. But the Rabbanan is slave. But the Eraisa, he does not hold from the concept of Breira. But the Rabbanan is slave. Dorish Marzutra halacha. Marzutra said the halacha is Rav Oshia. The halacha is like Rav Oshia. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said a din. Shmuel shall patam. A ox of a patam is a fattener. A person who has animals and he fattens them up to sell on the market.
For more money than regular.
For more money than Lamed Ches.
5 lines down.
5 lines down. So Shmuel says, Shor shall patam. The Gemara is talking about the concept of tchumen. This shore belongs to the fattener, and the fattener is going to sell it on Yontiv to somebody. How far can the person take the animal? Does the animal have the tchum of the fattener or of the person who buys it? So shor shel patam harehu karagle ka'adam. Whoever buys this shore can take it wherever, as far as he can go. It doesn't have the tchum of the patam, the one of the fattener. Shor shel roa, but a shore of a shepherd who has oxen that he also has available to sell. And if he sells one to somebody on Yontiv, so Shor shel roa harehu karagle osoir. The person who buys that shore from the row can only take it as far as the rower can take it. Okay. So the more goes on. Hashoel keli mechavero, mayor of Yontif. So this is the Mishnah said that what's the halacha if you borrow a keli from somebody Erev Yontif? On Yontif, the keli goes wherever the borrower can take it. Wherever the borrower goes, the shvisa of the keli is like the shvisa of the borrower. So the Gemara says pshita. That's obvious. It belongs to the borrower borrowed it. It acquires his shvisa. The Gemara says lo tzricha. I need to tell the Mishnah needs to tell you a specific specific case, Shalom Masru Ella B'Yontav, that yes, they agreed on Friday, Erev Yontav, or whenever Erev Yontav was, I'm gonna lend you this keli. But he didn't pick it up on Erev Yontav, he picked it up on Yontav. So now do we say that when Yontav began, it was in the reshus of the lender, so it should have the lender's tchum, or since the lender had already agreed to give it to the borrower, it has the borrower's tchum. So Mahu the Tema, I might.
Excuse me. Does it still work with a Shema Sacha? This is a Shayel. I'm now talking about Shema Sacha.
It doesn't matter what kind of shomer.
Doesn't make it.
It's
Who
the type
wants
of
it?
shomer is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant whether it's a Shayel or Shema Chima.
It doesn't-
It doesn't matter.
The question is, we learned earlier that whatever starts out in my reshus, in my Daled Amos, actually 2,000 Amos, on Yontif stays there. But here is a unique case. You asked me on Tuesday, can I borrow it? And I said, sure. And then Wednesday is Yontif, and you come pick it up then.
Right.
So what is the deal? It's in my reshus when Yontif started. But I had already given up the notion of it being in my reshus. I thought about it as yours, because you borrowed it. So the Gemara is saying that it's in your Shvisa is wherever you have your center, and it can go wherever you can go, not wherever I can go.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't do it. Go ahead.
No problem. So
Mahu Defend.
Mahu the same lab reshus. I might have thought that it wasn't in the possession of the borrower when Yontif started. So Kamash Milan, the Mishnah comes to tell us that it goes according to the reshus of the borrower. Masara laid Rav Yochanan, Rav Yochanan said, Hashoa kli mechavero, somebody who borrows a kli from his friend, me'erev Yontiv, before Yontiv, Avo Pishalo Nosnu Lo Elav Yontiv, even though he didn't actually give him the keli until Yontiv, Harehu Karagle Hashoa. The keli can be taken wherever the borrower can take it. The Mishnah goes on and says, Yontiv Karagle Amasho, but if he actually picked it up,
Asked for it.
he went and borrowed it on Yontif. So then the borrower can only take it as far as the lender can go. So Pshita, that's obvious because it was in the lender's reshus at the beginning of Yontif, so it can only go as far as the lenders. He didn't know he's going to give it to him. Pshita, the Gemara says, Lo tzricha. We need this, the Mishnah needs to tell you this case for a specific reason. The rogel b'shomene, because normally every Erev Yontiv, Reuven comes to borrow from Shimon this keli. So Reuven, the lender knows that Shimon's going to come and borrow the keli from him. So Mao the same, I might have thought that that maybe he gives it over because he knows he's going to come to borrow it. So he gave it over to the borrower, and it's in the borrower's reshus. So the Mishnah comes to tell you no. Kamash Milan, Meimar Omar, the lender can say, Dilma Mishkach Inish Achrini, maybe somebody else will want to come.
No, he'd go to someone else.
Achrini also b'shomene, and I will lend it to him.
Maybe Schwartz always borrows it, but he
Right.
never came. So from
Dilma Mishkach Inish, maybe some.
go to someone else and get a
Good.
pot.
All right.
Normally, Schwartz borrows a pot from Abramo. It's
Right.
every Yontif. This Yontif, he never came.
Right.
So the owner of the pot does not say it's gonna be in Schwartz's Rishus. He
right.
says maybe
Because maybe
Schwartz borrowed it from
some-
Cohen.
Okay. All right. So now the Gemara goes on.
He saw
The
it.
the last part, the Mishnah says, Isha sheshoam lechaverto, she borrowed salt or water to put in her dough. Kisolik Ravaba, when Ravaba went out from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, Omar, he said a prayer. Yehi Rabba, it should be God's will, the Ema Milsa de Miskabel, that I should say something when people, the Talmidei Chachamim Eretz Yisrael ask me something, I should say something that will be accepted. So Kisolak, when he went up to Eretz Yisrael, Ashkechei, Rav Abba found the Rav Yochanan, the Rav Chanina, Bar Papi, the Rav Zera. The Amri Law, and some say he found Rav Avu, Rav Shimon ben Paze, Rav Yitzchak Nafra. The Yasvi, and they were sitting, the Kamri, they were discussing our Mishnah. And they asked, Amai, so what did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah says that the woman borrows salt and water and puts it in her dough. The challah can only go as far as both of them, because the woman who put the water in, who gave the water, has reshus in the challah, and the challah can only be taken as far as both of them, the common ground. So the Gemara says they asked, Ramai, levato mayim b'melech legabi isa. The water, what is the majority of the challah? It's dough. So the little bit of water and the little bit of sasha put in should be bottled
To the flour.
to the flour. So Amar le Ravaba, so Ravaba was sitting there and he heard this conversation and he gave a teretz. Amar le Ravaba, on the top of Laman Ches on the base, Haresh is Arab lo kav chitin ba'asora kavin chitin. Shel Chavera. Your friend has 10 kavin of wheat, and you have 1 cob of wheat, and you give him your cob of wheat, and he mixes your cob with his 10 kavin, and he bakes it. All right. Yochel chalav chadi. So the person who
Had the
If
10.
it's your cob, can he enjoy it?
right, can he enjoy it? It belongs. You're going to say it's bottle.
Can he eat all 11
Right.
and
Right.
be thrilled that he
Right,
has an
and
extra
be
cow?
thrilled that he all 11. So what does it have to do with here? So they're saying the same thing as here. It's
It's butter.
it's butter.
I mean, it's not butter.
It's not butter. So therefore, the person who had the 1 cob gets to enjoy his 1 cob. Achichu alayhu. So the other Amoraim from Israel, from Eretz Yisrael, laughed at him. So Amar lahu, so Rav Abba said back to them, Gusaichu shakli, did I take your clothes? What did I do why are you laughing at me? I gave you an answer to your discussion, and you didn't give me an answer back. You just laughed at me. What did I do to you that I made you laugh at me? So Hador achichu alayu, and they laughed at him again. Amar Rav Oshia, so Rav Oshia said, Shapir Ovad. He's Shapir Ovad achichu alayu. Rav Oshia said that the Amoraim that laughed at Rababa did the right thing. Because Mashnach Chitin Besorim, what's the difference between Chitin and Sorim? The low kamer lahu, the havale min b'sheinu mino. If I have 1 cob of wheat and you have 10 cob of barley, and I mix my cob of wheat and your 10 cob of barley. Would you say it's bottle? Yes. Min b'sheinu mino. It's not the same thing, right? So min b'sheinu mino is bottle, right? So therefore, what were you? That's why they laughed at you. You were saying it should be bottle. It's not. Okay. Right. So min b'sheinu okay. Chiten bechiten nami. So the same thing should be chiten, wheat mixed together with wheat. So Nehi, the Rabbi Yehuda, there's an argument in all the Gemara whether min b'mino is batel. If you have two of the same things mixed up together, whether they're batel. And Rabbi Yehuda says min b'mino is lo batel, and Rabbanan hold min b'mino is batel. Rabbi Yehuda lo bito u'Rabbanan mivato bato. So it should be also bato. So Amarle Rav Safra said, Moshe, sharper comrade. Rav Abba said the right thing. V'lo shmiya lahu. Did you not hear Ha the Amar of Chia? The statement Rav Chia Ketusfa said, Rav Chia from Ketusfa said in the name of Rab that Haboyer Sororois Migroinoi Shochavera Chayev L'Shalim Loi Demei Chitin. What's the case? You have a bag of wheat that you just cut. The wheat has stones in it. You have to separate the stones and the schmutz from the wheat. Somebody goes into your bag of wheat and separates the stones and takes the stones out. Is he doing you a favor?
No,
Huh?
it's not.
No, he's not.
Yes, he's stopping fraud.
Ah,
But it,
but that,
What'd you say?
I said he's stopping fraud.
no,
no.
So,
it's normal.
because normally the person, when he sells the grain, I'm selling you raw grain that I got. You know, the Gemara says that there's an allowance for how much stones is in every bundle of grain, because that's the way grain comes. That's when you cut it off the ground, there's stones in there. So, okay. So now, when you took the stones out,
You diminish the volume of the bag.
you diminish the value in the bag. All right.
It's true. That's true.
That's true. So that's
the
what
normal process. Everybody buys, like you buy a bag of beans today, and it says on the bag, be careful to check for pebbles, because it's known that there can be pebbles. Here too, when you buy freshly threshed wheat, you know he scooped it up from the ground and they're going to be pebbles. So in your mind, you allow for the pebbles. Now this guy, Reuven, took out the pebbles. So when I thought I'm buying 4 quarts of adulterated grain, I only get 3.5 quarts, and I still think it's adulterated. I think I'm being shortchanged. So the fraud is to sell the grain as a 4 quarts of grain when it's only 3.5.
right.
And the guy who thought he's doing you a favor has to make up a quart of
Right. So he has to pay him chayev l'shalem, the person who separated the stones, chayev l'shalem lo demei chitim. He has to give him a cut, the same volume of stones that he took out from the wheat. He has to give him that volume of wheat
for his money.
For his right. So chayev l'shalem lo demei chitim. Alma. So you see that kilo chasya, that by taking out the stones from the wheat, you're causing it to be less. So hachinami, so the same say the same thing over here, that kilo chasya. Amar le Abaye. So Abaye said, "V'lo shoni le lamar." Does the master not make a difference between Mammon sheyesh lo tovin, the mammon she'ein lo tovin? Mammon sheyesh lo tovin means money that somebody's going to come and collect and ask you for it back. If I give you something, I want to come back and get it from you. The mammon she'ein lo tovin. So what happened over here? The woman came and asked for water to make her dough on Yom Tov, and you give her a little water, you give her a little salt. Are you going to come and ask her back for the water?
Probably not.
So is that Mammon Sheyesh Lo Tovin or Mammon She'ein Lo Tovin? It's Mammon She'ein Lo Tovin. So that was what Abaye says. Amar Le.
Therefore, it's bottle in.
There's bottle. Therefore, it's bottle.
And it should only be
the raglay of the
neither.
Right. Amar lay, so he said in the time, according to you, Hadamachista Nevela Betela Beschuta. If you have a piece of nevela meat and it gets mixed up into pieces of kosher meat, that nevela that's betela beschuta, and meat that's kosher. The meat, you can't tell the difference, the chunks of meat, whether it's a nevela meat, it's nevela or it's kosher. So the case is nevela betela beschuta. So if you have 10 pieces of kosher meat and one piece of nevela falls in, what would be the din?
11 kosher pieces.
11 pieces. It's batul barov. That's the din of kol karakua. So nevela betela beschuta. Lefi she'i efsher l'shchuta shete'asa nevela, because it is impossible for the kosher meat to become a nevela, meaning to become tameh.
So they're not min b'mino.
So they're not min b'mino, so therefore it will be batul barov. But what about the reverse case? What about a case of l'shchuta she'i after l'shchuta she'iyas nevela? Shchuta nevela. But in the case of shchuta that fell into a piece of meat that was slaughtered, that's kosher, fell into meat, other chunks of meat that were nevela. So there we say nevela, the shchuta ain't a batel nevela, lefi she'afsher lenevela sheta'asa shchuta, because it's possible for the nevela meat.
It's not possible.
Lefi she'afsher.
If you could figure out which is the kosher meat, you could fish it out.
Right.
It was not bottle to the nevela.
Right.
Because
it's impossible shenevela sheteasa shchuta. So hachinami, the chiles leibalim, where there are not owners lo batla, so it should not become bottle to the water and the salt should not become bottled to the dough. So let's say it is. Something that's hefker, it's onerous. You find it on Shabbos and you pick it up and you want to carry it, you want to take it. You're allowed to, right? How far can you take it? Hefse Hefker Konish Visa.
It has its own.
It has its own shvisa. So wherever you find this article, and it's hefker, doesn't belong to anybody, you can only take a 2,000 amas from where you find it. It's onerous, but still hefse hefker konen shvisa. Avo pishain lahem baum. Even though it doesn't have an owner, it's domen, it's similar to baum. Like an article that does have a bow. An article has a bow, you can take the article wherever the bow can take it. So an article that doesn't have an owner can only be taken as far as the article can be taken, wherever the shvisa of the article is. Communication bow. Amarle, Mikam Adamas Isur Lemamona. Are you talking about trying to compare Isser and Mammon? What is the case of Isser? The Isser is the Truman that you can only carry.
The Isser is the bread case where
No,
you
the
can't
Isser,
take it
yeah, the Isser is the
beyond
bread case.
joint area.
Right.
But Mamonim, where we said
The Mammon is the
different in it.
right. Isura bato Mamona lo bato. The time am I, and what is the reason? So the Gemara is going through a whole discussion trying to figure out why we don't say that the water and the salt is bato in the dough, and the shvisa goes after the both of them. So Abaya now ends and says, you know what? I'll tell you the reason. Amar Abaya, Aser. Amar Gezer Shemet Tasa Isa B'Shutvis. The reason is you've given me lots of explanations. The Chachabim made a gzera. If two people made dough together, so you can only take the dough as far as both of them can go. It's b'shutfus. So if somebody asks for water from one person and salt from somebody else, the halacha truly should be that the water and the salt are bottom. But the rabbis made a gezerah. This looks like a case of shutvis, so we want you to know that you can only take this challah as far as both the owner of the water and the owner of the dough can go. That's what Abaya says. Gezerah shema tasa isa b'shutvis. And Rava says,
why aren't the spices? Now we're going.
So now the Mishnah said another case. The Mishnah said a case where somebody borrows the tavlin, spices. So the Gemara says, tavlin, the time of it. The reason you borrow spices, you want to get a taste, right?
And the taste of a tame lo
The time loy bato. So the taste is there. When you taste the stew, you taste the peppercorns. All right. So therefore, time a low bottle. So therefore, you can only take the stew kurshus steya.
And Ravashi gives you. Let's do the top, the next three lines.
Okay.
And
Ravashi.
gives another reason.
Ravashi says another reason. Mishum dahabele davar sheyesh l'matira. We're talking about yontif. So the water, the whole reason you can't carry this from one place to another beyond the tum is because of tumen. That's only because of yontif. So this is after yontif, you can take it wherever you want. So Amar Ravashi says Mishum dahabele davar sheyesh l'matiran. The chol davar sheyesh l'matiran. A few be'elef lo bato, so therefore you can only take it for raglei shtayim.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so tomorrow, those of you who come will be, David will do the daf, and then on Sunday, I'll do the daf. We do not yet know
Bob, don't forget your phone.
whether Rabbi Green will be back or not. He's looking for, they have an emergency in Israel, and he's looking for Rishus to go to Israel. If they get Rishus, then
Shabbos,
Ruben
everyone.
and I'll be doing the
Good job. It's all about.
If we don't get Rishus, then Kenny will be back on Monday.